The Battle of Plassey, 1757. The consolidation of the British Empire dates back to this war. The East India Company became the undisputed rulers of Bengal after this war. Bengal was in those days a huge province and well endowed with resources. The East India Company had been granted rights to duty-free trade by the Mughal rulers as early as 1717. The company misused this privilege. The officers of the company indulged in private trade without any duty and amassed huge profits by buying cheap and selling at huge profits. Making use of the internal conflicts of the various rulers, the English eliminated all competition and huge losses were incurred by the Nawab Ali Vardi Khan. He was succeeded by his grandson Siraj-ud-Daulah, who did not like the British fortifying the factory at Calcutta's Fort William. They also mounted guns on the fort. Siraj-ud-Daulah protested and demanded revenue from them. The British refused to obey and the Nawab marched with his army and laid siege to Calcutta. He captured the officials, disarmed the soldiers and blocked the English ships. He left Manik Chand in charge to take care of Calcutta during his absence. Robert Clive, who was in charge of the Madras Presidency, was asked to retrieve Calcutta for the British. He conspired with Mir Jafar, the commander-in-chief of the Nawab's army, Jagat Seth, a banker, and Omi Chand, a rich merchant, and defeated Siraj-ud-Daulah in the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The Battle of Plassey can be termed as a turning point in the history of British rule in India. They killed Siraj-ud-Daulah and made Mir Jafar the Nawab. In return, they demanded privileges of him, to which he obliged. He became a puppet in the hands of the British, and the British became the real rulers of Bengal. Soon, Mir Jafar fell out of favor with the British as he could not satisfy their continuous demands. They deposed him and installed his son-in-law in his place, Mir Qasim. Mir Qasim proved to be a thorn in their flesh, and soon another battle took place, but more on that later.
তো তুমি দেখছি আসরটাকে করবে মাটি কাহার বানায় দাদরা বাজার বিলাসী বিলাসী কি রানীমা ঘুমের তরিতে রোশনি বায়ের পায়ের পায়ে रोशनी बाएर पाएर पायल रोशनी बाएर पाएर पायल रोशनी बाएर पाएर पायल কলজেটাকে করুক ঘায়েল আমার পথ পাতায় লাগবে না দাগ কলঙ্ক পাক যতই ঘাঁটি পদ্ম পাতায় লাগবে না দাগ কলঙ্ক পাক যতই ঘাঁটিয়া শশীকান্ত তুমি দেখছি আসরটাকে কোতে মাটি কাহার বানয় দাদরা বাজা
Heil Hitler! Please.
May I make an observation if the Führer has no objection?
Yes, of course.
Perhaps the Führer has been misinformed about India and Indians.
Really? What have I said that upsets you?
In your book Mein Kampf, you have written, England will lose India only if it allows its administrative machinery to be dominated by Indians. And further, I, as a German, prefer to see India under British domination than any other country.
That's because colonized people like you Indians take up cowardly stances like Gandhi's passive resistance. This is not what India needs. The agenda for India should be: 1. Eliminate the British. 2. Avoid the Russians. 3. Make an agreement with Japan. Only after you've done that, you will be able to organize and reconstruct your country, which will take at least 100 years, provided you work hard like us Germans.
Your Excellency, I too have been in politics all my life. I have come to you for support in our fight against a common enemy, and not for advice.
Yeah. Germany and India have the same enemies: Britain and Russia. Britain has colonized India and now wants to dominate all of Europe. But whatever Churchill might think, Britain can never defeat Germany. Of course you must fight the British, but also keep an eye on Russia and its red friends like your Pandit Nehru. Communism is a scourge which must be stamped out from the face of the earth.
Your Excellency, If I may suggest, you were wrongly advised into opening a second front against the Soviet Union. A strategic mistake which will divide German forces and spread them thin over all of Europe and Africa.
Mistake? Certainly not. Take it from me. Russia will be defeated by this winter. We are already at the gates of Moscow.
Only time will tell, Your Excellency.
Now pay attention to what I say. If Germany, like Japan, were at India's frontiers, I would have told you to march with me into India. Come. Come here and see this. See how far Germany is from India. Very far, But it seems you are in a great hurry. You want your freedom right now. So it's better that you go to Japan and march with an army into India.
May I then request Your Excellency for an aeroplane to take me there?
You want to fly half the globe in an aeroplane? Oh, impossible and quite foolish. We have to find a safer passage for you. Have you ever traveled in this? It is called a U-boat and moves under the sea. Take this and go by the old route around Africa like Vasco da Gama. We are presenting India with a unique opportunity. You will now be able to throw off the English yoke without falling into Russian hands.
Subhash Chandra Bose was born on 23rd January 1897 to Janakinath Bose, a well-reputed advocate, and Prabhavati Devi. Subhash Chandra Bose's nationalistic temperament first came to light at the Presidency College, Calcutta, when he was rusticated for assaulting Professor Oaten for his anti-India comments. During the mid-1930s, Bose travelled in Europe, visiting Indian students and European politicians, including Mussolini. He observed party organization and saw communism and fascism in action. In 1938, he had become a leader of national stature and agreed to accept the nomination as Congress President. He stood for Swaraj, self-governance. But this, however, meant a confrontation with Gandhi, which also created a rift between him and Nehru. On the outbreak of World War II, Bose advocated a campaign of mass civil disobedience to protest against Viceroy Lord Linlithgow's decision to declare war on India's behalf without consulting the Congress leadership. Bose organized mass protests in Calcutta, calling for the Holwell Monument, which then stood at the corner of Dalhousie Square, to be removed. Bose was thrown into jail but was released following a 7-day hunger strike. Bose's house in Calcutta was kept under surveillance by the CID following his release. Bose planned an escape with the help of his nephew, Sisir K. Bose, in a car dressed as a Pathan, sporting a long beard which he grew overnight. Bose escaped to Germany via Afghanistan and the Soviet Union. In Germany, to Hitler and Bose. I swear by God this holy oath that I will obey the leader of the German race and state, Adolf Hitler, as the commander of the German armed forces in the fight for India, whose leader is Subhash Chandra Bose. Matters worsened when the now retreating German army would be in no position to offer him help in driving the British from India. So, in 1943, Bose turned his back on his legionaries and slipped secretly away aboard a submarine bound for Japan. Traveling on board the German submarine U-180 around the Cape of Good Hope to Imperial Japan via Japanese submarine I-29. This was the only civilian transfer between two submarines of two different navies in World War II. The idea of a liberation army was revived with the help of Subhash Chandra Bose in the Far East in 1943. Bose took control of the Indian National Army and was able to reorganize the fledgling army and gathered massive support among the expatriate Indian population in Southeast Asia. Spoken as a part of a motivational speech for the Indian National Army at a rally of Indians in Burma on July 4, 1944, Bose's most famous quote was, "Give me blood and I shall give you freedom." In this, he urged the people of India to join him in his fight against the British Raj. The INA's first commitment was in the Japanese thrust towards the eastern Indian frontiers of Manipur. The INA and Japanese also took possession of Andaman and Nicobar Islands in 1942. It was the Battle of Kohima and Imphal which had a significant impact on the Indian National Army. The Japanese could no longer fund their armies and eventually surrendered. The INA were no match for the British troops without the help of the Japanese, and therefore surrendered to the British as well. Mystery still surrounds the disappearance and eventual death of Bose, though it is said that he is alleged to have died in a plane crash in Taipei, Taiwan, on 18 August 1945 while en route to Tokyo. The Imperial Japanese Air Force bomber he was traveling on had engine trouble, and when it crashed, Bose was badly burned, dying in a local hospital.
Brutal foe, no amount of civil disobedience or of sabotage or of revolutionary terrorism can be of any avail. If therefore we want to expel British power from India, we have to fight the enemy with his own weapons. The enemy has already drawn the sword. He must therefore be fought with the sword. But it is not possible for our countrymen at home to organize an armed revolution and to fight the British army of occupation with modern arms. This is a task which must therefore devolve on Indians living abroad, and particularly on Indians living in East Asia. Friends, if you compare the history of our national struggle with histories of similar struggles in other parts of the world, you will realize that we in India have lacked one thing and one thing alone. We lack the strength and organization whereby we can meet force with force. I am confident that with the help of my countrymen in East Asia, I shall be able to organize such a gigantic force as will be able to sweep away the British power from India in conjunction with those who have already been fighting